You were raised to be good, taught to smile politely, to share your toys, to apologize quickly, to soften your voice so no one would feel threatened. Conditioned to fold yourself into something acceptable, something harmless, something digestible. You were told goodness is its own reward, that if you are kind, kind things will return. That life is some moral balance sheet where generosity flows back, loyalty is reciprocated, honesty is celebrated. But you've seen the truth, haven't you? You've seen the ruthless rise. You've seen the sly manipulate. You've seen the liar, the cheater, the betrayer sit on thrones built from bones of the naive. And you've whispered to yourself in the quiet, why does goodness cost so much? Why does cruelty seem to pay? Machiavelli answered you 5 centuries ago. He told you plainly, without poetry, without illusion, it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. And that sentence like a knife cuts through the flesh of every fairy tale you were fed, because goodness, by itself, is weakness. And weakness has no survival value. You look around your life. At the office, where the sycophant flatters his way into promotions while you wait patiently for your hard work to be noticed. At the dinner table, where relatives exploit your silence, turning your politeness into an invitation to dump their misery on you. In relationships, where your willingness to forgive becomes the leash someone else pulls tighter around your throat. Goodness without power rots into martyrdom. It is not holy, it is not pure, it is the currency of those who cannot bite back. And the world knows. Predators can smell the good. They sense the softness, the hesitation, the desperate need to be liked. They circle you not because they hate you, but because you are edible. Machiavelli does not whisper comfort. He does not dress it in moral platitudes. He drags you face first into the mud and says, if you wish to survive among wolves, stop bleeding in front of them. And this is where the cost of goodness begins to reveal itself. Because every act of purity, when unshielded by strategy, becomes a signal flare. You lend money out of compassion. It is never repaid. You were never respected as a creditor, only exploited as a fool. You defend someone in crisis. Later, they betray you because your loyalty was convenience, not fear. You tell the truth in a room of liars, and the liars laugh as you are crucified by your own honesty. The shocking cost of goodness is not only betrayal, it is irrelevance. It is invisibility. It is death by slow erasure. Let us walk deeper. Why does goodness fail? Because goodness assumes reciprocity. It assumes the world is moral, that others will play by the same rules. But Machiavelli knew the majority are ungrateful. The majority are fickle. The majority will abandon you the moment it benefits them. And if you cling to goodness, you chain yourself to their whims. You become a disposable saint, buried beneath the rubble of your own sacrifices. You feel it, don't you? That gnawing bitterness, that quiet scream. The times you stayed silent when you should have spoken. The times you forgave when you should have cut someone's throat, metaphorically or otherwise. The times you handed over your time, your energy, your body, your trust only to realize you were giving pearls to swine. That bitterness is your shadow. It is the dark half Jung warned you about. It is your will to power, strangled beneath a halo that was forced onto your head. And the shadow whispers, you do not lose because you are bad. You lose because you are too good. Imagine the scene. 2 rulers stand side by side. One rules with justice, kindness, fairness, equality. The other rules with cunning, cruelty, terror, and spectacle. Which throne survives the storm? The first is loved. The people cheer when things are easy. But when famine strikes, when enemies rise, when gold runs dry, the people scatter. Love evaporates into dust. The second is feared. The people may curse in silence, may despise behind closed doors, but they obey. And when famine strikes, when enemies rise, when gold runs dry, they still obey. Machiavelli saw it with chilling clarity. Love is conditional, fear is loyal. But here lies the paradox. If you rule only by fear, rebellion waits. If you rule only by love, betrayal waits. So the cost of goodness is not only weakness, it is the guarantee that your love will not protect you when power is threatened. And the world is always threatening power. Step outside of kingdoms, look at your own life, the workplace, the family, the friendships, the relationships. What happens when you play only the good one? You absorb the dysfunction. You carry the emotional labor. You become the trash bin for everyone's insecurities. And then when you finally break, when your goodness collapses, they call you selfish, cold, changed. They never respected your goodness. They only consumed it. This is the shock Machiavelli forces you to face. Goodness without teeth is not virtue. It is servitude. Real virtue is strategic. Real goodness is chosen, not automatic. Real kindness comes from strength, not from fear of rejection. He would tell you, be good only when it serves power. Smile only when the smile strengthens your hand. Forgive only when forgiveness binds someone tighter to your rule. Give only when giving increases your control. Because power without goodness breeds revolt. But goodness without power breeds oblivion. Pause. Breathe. Let the words sink like iron weights. You remember the faces. The boss who smiled while sabotaging you. The lover who said I love you while feeding on your weakness. The friend who called you family while carving your back open with gossip. And you were good. And you paid. That was the silent price no one dared to name. The question now, will you keep paying? Or will you walk into the darkness Machiavelli mapped out? Not to become cruel for cruelty's sake, but to wield cruelty when necessary. To be good strategically. To be feared subtly. To be loved conditionally. To stop being food. You want examples? Look closer at the small betrayals. At the dinner table, when silence could have kept you untouchable, you chose to clear the air, to be transparent. And transparency was weaponized against you. That was the cost of goodness. At work, when you covered for a lazy colleague, thinking loyalty builds loyalty. It didn't. They took credit, and you vanished. That was the cost of goodness. In love, when you gave without limit, when you poured endlessly, when you believed sacrifice is proof of devotion. It wasn't. It was proof you were exploitable. That was the cost of goodness. Do you see it? Machiavelli's dark truth is not about kings and thrones. It is about you. Your everyday wars. Your invisible kingdom. The cost of goodness is paid not only in betrayal, but in the slow erosion of self-respect. In the silent knowing that you bent too much, forgave too quickly, gave too freely. And each time, a piece of you was carved away. Until you looked in the mirror and wondered, why does no one value me? The answer, because you taught them not to. Machiavelli would laugh at your suffering not out of cruelty, but out of clarity. You expect the world to reward you for being good, he would sneer. The world rewards power. Goodness is only celebrated when power endorses it. Otherwise, it is forgotten. And deep down you know he is right. That is why you are here, reading these words. Because a part of you is done paying the cost. A part of you is ready to stop being the good victim. A part of you is ready to become dangerous. And yet, this is where the terror lies. Because to step into danger, to wield fear, to use power, you must let go of your innocence. You must accept that purity is dead. That goodness is no longer the default. That goodness is now a weapon you choose when it benefits you. And that shift, that terrifying metamorphosis, is the beginning of sovereignty. But sovereignty has its price too, and you are about to discover it. You stand at the threshold. Behind you, the ruins of your goodness, the wilted flowers of thankless loyalty, the unpaid debts, the empty promises, the hollow applause that vanished when you needed it most. Ahead of you, the unknown, the dark, sharp path where innocence is no longer a shield, where morality bends into strategy, where goodness becomes an option, not an obligation. You hesitate? Because this path demands something brutal. It demands you kill the version of yourself that was always available, always forgiving, always soft. And death of the old self is never gentle. Machiavelli waits here like a ghostly guide, cloaked in Renaissance shadows. His words echo across centuries, stripped of all pretense. A prince who is too good will be ruined among so many who are not good. Ruined. That was his word. Not tested, not challenged, ruined. The good one is not merely disadvantaged. The good one is devoured. And if you doubt this, look around. Look at the history of saints. They were not crowned, they were burned. Look at the martyrs. They were not rewarded, they were silenced. Look at the honest reformers. They were not celebrated, they were assassinated. Goodness stripped of strength does not elevate, it annihilates. You ask yourself in the quiet, do I dare to step away from goodness? Do I dare to learn the dark arts of power? Because once you do, there is no return. Once you learn to mask your motives, once you learn to withhold your kindness until it buys you leverage, once you learn to make others fear losing you, you cannot unknow it. The innocence dies. The predator awakens. Picture the next gathering. The dinner table where once you sat politely, nodding, absorbing every insult cloaked as jokes. This time, you do not laugh. You let silence thicken the air. You watch them squirm, because silence, too, can wound. And suddenly power shifts. No one is laughing. They are watching. They are recalculating. Your goodness is no longer free. Or the workplace. The colleague who used to dump tasks on your desk with a smile. You no longer say yes. You let them taste the sting of refusal. And when they fumble, when they beg for help, you offer it, but at a cost. Visibility, credit, recognition. Now your kindness has teeth. Now your goodness extracts tribute. This is Machiavellian goodness. Not naive, not free, calculated. And in love, love. Here the lesson cuts deepest. Because you believed love thrives on unconditional giving. You believed sacrifice proves devotion. You believed losing yourself was a gift. But unconditional love, without boundaries, becomes worship. And worship breeds contempt. So you shift. You no longer beg. You no longer chase. You no longer surrender every inch of yourself to be validated. Instead, you let absence do the talking. You let mystery ferment desire. You let the fear of losing you become stronger than their comfort in owning you. And then ironically your love becomes more valuable, because it is no longer guaranteed. This is the dark paradox. By withholding goodness, your goodness becomes powerful. By denying constant love, your love becomes magnetic. By refusing endless giving, your giving becomes sacred. Scarcity breeds value. Abundance breeds neglect. Machiavelli knew this. And deep down you've always known it too. But wait, there is another layer. Goodness costs more than betrayal. More than invisibility. More than being forgotten. The most shocking cost of goodness is this: it erases your individuality. Because to be endlessly good, endlessly accommodating, endlessly forgiving, you must amputate the parts of you that are raw, selfish, angry, ambitious, untamed. You must silence your shadow. You must deny your true hungers. You must pretend you are a lamb when, in truth, you are a wolf chained in your own skull, and that denial eats you alive. How many nights have you sat in silence, replaying the moments where you swallowed your words, where you played the better person, where you smiled while wanting to scream? That is the slow suicide of goodness, the murder of the self in the name of acceptance. And every time you kill that raw, dark, honest impulse, you grow weaker. You become more ghost than human. Jung warned you. The shadow, if repressed, does not disappear. It festers. It leaks. It sabotages. Your passive aggression, your sudden breakdowns, your secret addictions, these are your shadow seeking revenge for the goodness you forced upon it. And until you embrace it, until you wield it, until you let it breathe, you will remain split, half alive, half slave. So here is the unspoken truth. To truly live, you must betray goodness. You must learn to weaponize your darker instincts. Not to drown in them, but to use them. Anger becomes a boundary. Selfishness becomes preservation. Cruelty becomes strategy. Manipulation becomes defense. And only then, only when goodness and darkness dance together, do you step into sovereignty. But do not think this path is painless. The death of innocence always leaves scars. You will grieve the old self. You will miss the days when you believed love was enough, honesty was enough, kindness was enough. But nostalgia is a trap. The good self was not real. It was a mask you were forced to wear. And now finally you are unmasking. You may ask, but won't people call me cruel, cold, changed? Yes, they will. And that is how you will know you are free. Because those words are weapons of control. They are thrown at you by those who benefited from your endless goodness. They mourn not your soul, but their meal. The shocking cost of goodness, then, is this. It robs you of fear. It robs you of respect. It robs you of self. And the only way to reclaim it is to step into the very darkness you feared. Machiavelli's darkness. Your shadow's darkness. The darkness of sovereignty. And here where you stand, now the question sharpens. Will you keep bleeding for others, hoping for scraps of gratitude? Or will you finally bare your teeth and watch how quickly the wolves back away? The silence waits for your choice. The silent price of goodness. Goodness is never free. It demands sacrifice. It risks betrayal. It leaves you exposed. Machiavelli did not despise virtue. He exposed its fragility when it walks alone. Power without goodness becomes tyranny. Goodness without power becomes ruin. The balance is rare, and those who hold it shape the fate of nations and the destiny of their own lives. Now ask yourself, in your own life, has your goodness been a shield or a weakness? Reflect, write, or share your thoughts. Because the cost of goodness is always paid, and sometimes the only choice you have is whether you pay it in silence or in strength.